Welcome back to Under the Influence, where I explore astrology through lived experience, unseen guidance, and personal reflection. Last week, we opened a door. We explored Pisces as a portal, the place in our chart where the veil thins, where we are softened, emptied, undone just enough to let the unseen slip through. If you haven't listened to the first episode yet, I recommend starting there. You'll find the link in the description. Today, we begin walking through those doors, house by house. And because there are 12, we will move in 2 steps. This episode is for rising signs from Leo through Capricorn. And next week, we'll continue with Aquarius through Cancer. Here's something to hold as we go. If you have planets or points in Pisces or Virgo, the doorway of that house is even louder in your life. It's like having an antenna pointed directly into the invisible. For example, someone with their sun fused to Neptune in Pisces is not just passing through this doorway occasionally, their entire existence is wired for communion with the unseen. The house where Pisces falls becomes less of a room you visit and more of a lifelong habitat, charged with both responsibility and gift. So let's begin, starting with Leo rising. For Leo rising, Pisces opens the doorway in the 8th house, the place most of us would rather avoid. It is the house of endings, of loss, of merging with what cannot be seen or controlled. For Leo, this is particularly poignant. A sign that thrives on radiance and being witnessed must walk straight into the shadows of dissolution, where nothing can be owned and nothing can be held on to. The 8th house asks them to surrender not only loved ones, but also versions of themselves they thought they needed in order to shine. It is here that their ancestors come closest, not through applause or triumph, but through absence, the sudden hallowing that reveals a presence greater than the self. To try to manage this house, to make sense of it, is to miss the point entirely. Its power is in this refusal to be tamed. And yet, the polarity pulls hard. With Virgo ruling their 2nd house, Leo risings crave financial order, stability, a sense of worth they can account for. They may cling to control of their resources as proof of value, proof that they are safe. But again and again, life reminds them that it is only when the structures collapse, when the bank account dips, when possessions fall away, that their unseen king can be truly felt. The more they are emptied, the more the door opens. This doesn't mean a life of poverty or perpetual instability. Rather, it is through the cycles of loss that they sharpen their trust in this connection. Trust that their inheritance, not only material, but the deeper inheritance of soul gifts, past life wisdom, and collaborative power with their unseen king, cannot be taken from them. In fact, it is only when the false securities fall away that this inheritance can finally be claimed. For Leo rising, the paradox is sharp. The grief, the pain, the intensity, the letting go, all of it becomes the path into a kind of wealth that has nothing to do with numbers and everything to do with meaning. They are empty, yes, but also filled with experiences that no earthly currency can buy. And when they return to the 2nd house of Virgo to rebuild, they do so from a place so raw and so real that their sense of worth is unshakable. This is not an easy initiation, but it is the one that allows them to embody the fullness of both Leo and Pisces, to shine not because they are untouched by darkness, but because they have walked through it, merged with it, and discovered that the unseen never left them. It is grief itself that cracks the doorway open, and it is through that doorway that Leo risings find the eternal radiance of their ancestral line. and the financial blessings that eventually accompany it. For Virgo risings, the doorway into the unseen opens in the 7th house, the realm of the other, partnerships, mirrors, the people who stand across from us and reflect something we can't see in ourselves. Which means that for Virgo risings, the unseen doesn't arrive in solitude, but in relationship. The irony, of course, is that relationships are also where Virgo craves clarity, control, and structure the most. The Virgo self wants to measure, to analyze, to improve. But Pisces in the 7th laughs at that instinct. Pisces here dissolves the illusion of control. It empties out the tidy narratives you try to build around how it's supposed to go. Relationships for Virgo rising are often bewildering because they refuse to obey Virgo's meticulous logic. Partners arrive as mirrors you didn't ask for. They dissolve just when you thought you could hold them steady. They bring intimacy, yes, but also a kind of undoing. A reminder that your deepest relationship, the one you've been chasing through human faces, was never going to be with a human at all. That's the ache of displacement. You can be surrounded by people and still feel the emptiness that no lover, no friend, no partner can feel. Not because you're doomed to loneliness, but because the relationship your soul longs for isn't housed in flesh. It's in the unseen. It's in the ancestors who meet you not across a table, but in the silence that follows heartbreak, in the presence that rises when someone leaves, in the whispers that arrive when the other disappears. Pisces in the 7th initiates you through loss, through the dissolution of bounds you thought you couldn't live without. Every time a connection ends, sometimes abruptly, sometimes painfully, you're being thinned out, emptied, made more available to the bound that never leaves. Does that mean human love is meaningless for you? Not at all. But it does mean that human love alone cannot bear the weight of your longing. No one person can carry that burden. And when you try to make them, relationships collapse under the pressure. The invitation for Virgo risings is to reframe intimacy, to understand that human relationships are companions, not completions, that they point you again and again toward the one bound that truly satisfies, the merging with what can't be lost, the communion with what never leaves. And here's the paradox. When you stop demanding that humans provide the fulfillment only the unseen can offer, your relationships actually get lighter, more joyful. They stop being burdens of expectation and start becoming dances of imperfection. You can love others as they are, not as they should be, because the emptiness is already full elsewhere. For Libra risings, Pisces pours into the 6th house, the realm of daily rhythms, work, health, service, the little things that feel alive. But Pisces doesn't like little things. Pisces doesn't like order at all, which makes displacement one of the most paradoxical of all. The 6th house is where we want to keep things together, tidy, managed, predictable. It's where routines live, where we try to organize our days so we can feel some sense of stability. But with Pisces here, that stability never quite takes. Libra risings find that their ancestors, their unseen king, refuse to enter through rituals that are planned, disciplined, rehearsed. They enter instead through interruptions, through disruptions, through the cracks in the schedule. And that can be excruciating for a Libra rising, because Libra itself longs for harmony, for balance, for beauty in the arrangement of life. Yet Pisces in the 6th whispers, your balance is not built, it is given. The daily relationship with the unseen is not something you achieve by managing your life into perfection. It comes through the collapse of the very structures you thought you needed to function. Imagine waking every day to a to-do list that dissolves in your hands. Plans falling apart, health routines that don't quite stick, pets who become teachers, meals that turn into prayer by accident, not design. For Libra risings, this is maddening. And yet, this is exactly where their ancestors lived through. In the ordinary, in the mundane, in the moments no one else would notice. Does that mean they can't have structure? Of course not. But it does mean their structure can't be static. It has to remain porous, adaptive, surrendered. The sixth house becomes less about control and more about conversation. A daily, ongoing conversation with the unseen. What's the rhythm today? Where do you want me to focus? What can I release? And here's the pain. Libra risings may often feel like failures in the realm of routine. They can't hold on to order in the way the world expects. The 9 to 5 mode rarely fits. The wellness checklist always unravels. But hidden in that unraveling is the very thing they're looking for, the daily presence of their ancestors, guiding them not through predictability but through trust. For Libra rising, the unseen isn't a dramatic visitation in meditation or ritual. It's in the smallest things. The way a pet curls against them when they've abandoned the list. The taste of a meal cooked without measuring. The unexpected quiet moment in the middle of chaos where a whisper slips through. Their ancestors are daily companions, but only when Libra stops trying to orchestrate the encounter. This is the paradox. What feels like chaos, like disorder, like failure to keep up, is the actual doorway. The sixth house here is not about controlling life, but letting life reveal itself, moment by moment, as a collaboration with the unseen. For Scorpio risings, Pisces lives in the fifth house, the place of joy, creativity, play, children, romance, self-expression. It's the house of lightness, where life can feel like an improvisation, a stage to play upon. But for Scorpio risings, it's rarely that simple. Scorpio's nature is already intense, private, oriented towards survival and transformation. To them, the fifth house feels almost alien. How can one simply play? How can one simply create without stakes, without risk? With Pisces here, joy and play become something mysterious, elusive, and often cracked open only through loss. This is the paradox. Where other signs might find delight naturally, Scorpio risings often touch joy only through its absence. They may lose a sense of lightness early in life or feel cut off from carefree creativity because intensity always seems to take center stage. But it's precisely in this loss, in the sorrow of not having joy so easily available, that their ancestors reach for them. Pisces in the fifth asks Scorpios to redefine joy, not as something shallow or performative, but as the raw expression of their depth. Their ancestors want them to bring grief, longing, intensity into the field of creation, to allow sorrow to sing, to allow pain to paint, to allow loss to dance. This is not joy as escape, this is joy as alchemy. And because Virgo rules their 11th house, the polarity is crucial. They're invited to bring this creative intensity into groups, into communities, into collective spaces. While they may prefer to keep their depths private, their ancestors insist that something powerful happens when they risk vulnerability in public. Sharing pain through art, through play, through creation with others can feel terrifying for Scorpio risings, but it is also how their unseen ancestors weave their presence into the world. The danger, of course, is getting lost in the Virgo 11th shadow, overanalyzing friendships, judging themselves against groups, dissolving into the safety of fitting in. But when they resist that pull, Scorpio risings become astonishingly magnetic. Their strange, authentic joy, a joy that always has shadows in it, becomes medicine. They model a kind of play that doesn't deny the darkness but carries it openly, even beautifully, into creative expression. For Scorpio rising, joy isn't what happens when everything feels good. Joy is what blooms when they let their ancestors guide them through the wreckage, the endings, the disillusionments, and still choose to create, still choose to share, still choose to leap into expression, even when it feels like a fool's risk. This is their paradoxical gift, to embody a joy that can hold grief without dissolving, to show others that play can be sacred, that creation can be a ritual of healing, and that even the darkest depths can give birth to radiance. For Sagittarius risings, Pisces floods the fourth house, the root of the chart, the private chambers, the place of family, lineage, the ancestral hearth. This is where one longs for safety, belonging, a womb-like return. But with Pisces here, that longing often feels unmoored. Home is haunted. Family carries mysteries, silences, wounds that dissolve instead of stabilizing. Safety slips through their fingers. This is not just about the family they were born into. It's about past lives, karmic echoes, inheritances of soul they can't explain with reason. Many Sag risings find themselves haunted by feelings of loss or grief that seem older than they are, as though they are carrying memories that don't belong to them alone. Pisces here blurs the boundaries between self and ancestry, present and past, lived and remembered. And yet, because Virgo rules the 10th house, the polarity plays out loud and clear. They often respond to this private void by doubling down on their public roles. If home doesn't feel safe, if the roots are dissolving, then look at me out in the world. See how competent I am, how devoted, how useful. I can hold it together. Their Virgo 10th house becomes a stage for proving stability, for demonstrating order. But no matter how many accolades or professional successes they collect, the emptiness waits at home. This is where their ancestors press against the veil. For Sagittarius risings, the ancestors do not knock politely. They inhabit the walls of the home, the silences at night, the strange dreams that won't leave them. They ask, we will stop looking for safety and applause. We will stop trying to build a house of achievements. We will come home to us, to yourself, in the stillness of your own heart. It's a brutal paradox. The physical world rarely offers Sagittarius risings the sense of safety they crave. Family may be fractured. Home may never feel permanent. The ground may never fully solidify. And yet, through this very absence, their ancestors offered them a different kind of home. One woven from ancestry, from trust, from communion with the unseen. When Sagittarius risings accept that home may never be perfect in the outer world, but that the unseen have always been waiting to house them, everything shifts. The professional successes they once chased for security become something else, an offering, an outflow of what they've rooted in their private communion. The emptiness of the fourth becomes the soil where their deep trust is grown, and from that trust comes a life that feels real. For Sagittarius rising, safety doesn't come from the ground beneath them, or the family name, or the house they live in. Safety comes from allowing themselves to be held by their ancestors, by the invisible home that never crumbles. When they root there, they can carry that sanctuary everywhere. And paradoxically, the world begins to recognize them even more. Not for the masks they wear, but for the truth they embody. The lesson is painful, but exquisite. The home they've been seeking outside has always been inside, where their ancestors are already waiting with open arms. For Capricorn risings, Pisces seeps into the third house, the neighborhood of the mind. Streets you expected to be linear turn to mist. Language loosens at the seams. Thoughts arrive like weather you didn't order. On good days, it's rain on dry ground. On hard days, it's a flood with no drain. This is why you experience loss. Not always dramatic, but acute. Loss of certainty. Loss of the tidy sentence. Loss of the belief that every thought is yours. Melancholy can drift in like fog at 4 a.m., and with it the unnerving sense that your inner voice is carrying older echoes. You speak and realize something wiser or sharper. Just use your mouth as a doorway. People flinch. You flinch. The aftermath is familiar. I didn't mean to say it like that. Here's the portal. Not ownership, stewardship. Your mind is a crossing, not a castle. Thoughts pass through. Some are yours. Some are ancestral fragments, family weather systems, neighborhood signals from other lives. Discernment for you is not about grip, it's about customs work. What gets stamped and admitted? What gets held for inspection? What gets sent back? The grief here is ordinary and relentless. The apology that arrives late. The text you delete. The conversation that fractures because truth outpaced tenderness. You'll be tempted to run to your Virgo ninth house for cover, to buttress your position with sources, credentials, philosophies, institutions that certify you. It looks responsible. It often works. But each citation can become a brick in a wall that keeps the living conversation out. You don't need a podium. You need a workbench. Think of speech as craft. Draft, then walk. Edit for pressure, not performance. Let silence count as a sentence. Build small structures that keep you honest. Write it first. Sleep on it. Speak it later. Keep a pocket notebook for the way ideas ambush you at crosswalks, in grocery lines, on the bus. Your clearest downloads won't wait for a desk. Your ancestors prefer the errand, the shortcut that becomes a detour that becomes a message. The third house also holds siblings, cousins, schoolmates, the people who know your handwriting. With Pisces here, so familiar faces appear in coffee shops and intersections. Strangers who feel like childhood. They press ancient buttons. Activations come fast. Not every reunion needs a category. Let recognition be enough. You will lose some arguments. You will lose some people. There are words you cannot take back and silences you cannot replay. Grieve them. Compose them. That sorrow is the salt that seasons your discernment. So the next message lands with less shrapnel and more signal. Authority isn't what you think it is here. It doesn't come from being right, lauded, or being backed by a higher institution. It comes from carrying language with care, from refusing to convince, from recognizing when a thought chose you and deciding whether it deserves your voice. When you move like that, your words stop trying to win and start to work, like rain working its ways into the roots. Capricorn rising. Your mind is not broken. It is porous by design. It is how your ancestors work with you. You are the local signal keeper, translating between eras at the speed of a sidewalk. The less you cling to owning every thought, the more precisely you can host the ones that matter. And paradoxically, the moment you stop arguing to be believed is the moment people start listening. That brings us to the close of this chapter of Under the Influence. Today we walked the doors of Pisces from Leo through Capricorn. Each rising sign carrying its own paradox of loss and opening, emptiness and inheritance. If there is a thread through all of them, it's this. Our ancestors don't enter through our perfection. They arrive through the cracks, the gifts, the dissolves, the spaces we would never choose. Next week, we'll continue the journey, moving through Aquarius through Cancer. Each sign holds its own strange doorway, and I promise the view changes again. Here's the piece I want to leave you with. The pain isn't the point, the opening is. The pain is just the door frame you brush against on your way through. What waits on the other side? The companionship, the guidance, the unshakable sense of not being alone. That's the inheritance. That's the gift that stays. I'll meet you there again next week.